Welcome, Form 3 students of SPU and the CSEC program. We're going to do goal 20 of your goals for the test about African enslavement. And again, it's about the quality, not so much about reproducing. So get the skills, get the abilities. That's what it's about. And the question is about describing. Describe the way, the manner the Dutch became essential, important word, for slave trade within the Caribbean in depth by using the words slave revolt, Dutch West India Company, supply, and sugar fittingly, properly. So they got those four words, slave forwards, Dutch West India Company, supply, and sugar have to fit into your answer, yeah, your broader answer. Okay, to the left, a picture of the Dutch West India Company. Yeah, that was the big multinational, the big international firm that was created by the Dutch to do their international trading. It was very modern, it had stockholders, aandeelhouders, and it was international. So it was one of the first multinationals in the world. Let's look at the answer in three parts. First, the Dutch became essential. You see the word from the question, from the goal? For slave trade within the Caribbean. So again, I use the question within my answer. The Dutch became essential for slave trade within the Caribbean by setting up or conquering slave forts. Remember the slave fort from the last goal? They used these to collect and buy slaves. So they used slave forts, for instance, conquered from the Portuguese, who started to build them in the 15th century, and they used these to collect and buy slaves from the West African chiefs at the Gold Coast. Around 1650, in the middle of the 17th century, they became the main suppliers of slaves for the European sugar plantations in the Caribbean. So they supplied slaves to work in the Caribbean sugar plantations. And, like I said, they established the Dutch West India Company in 1621, around the early beginnings of the 17th century. The so called WIC, Dutch for West-Indische Compagnie, the West India Company, organized the transatlantic slave trade and transported sugar to Europe with huge profits. Because it was a multinational, so profit was their end goal. Again, let's look at the map. This all often helps. When looking at the map of Africa, and especially Western Africa, we have the Gold Coast. And for instance, the Dutch had their Elmina conquered from the Portuguese, and from the Gold Coast, they bought, traded slaves from the African chiefs and brought them towards the Caribbean. Yeah? So the Gold Coast, look at it again, was over there. And from there, they had slave forts buying, trading African slaves from the African chiefs, for instance, from the Ashanti or the Dahomey, and they transported them towards the Caribbean to work at the sugar plantations. I hope this answer was useful, and I hope you got a bigger academic view and a bigger understanding of how the Dutch became essential for slave trade within the Caribbean.